This story is about alien students attending a human history class and quickly realizing they're not ready for what humans have done to themselves. The room was a soft oval with walls that shimmered like oil on water, ambient light pulsating in time with the lecture's pace. 34 alien students from 18 star systems sat arranged in rising tiers, some hovering, some coiled, a few soaking in moisture pods. Galactic University's Intercultural Studies course had finally reached its most infamous elective, Human History 101. The room had been silent until Professor Aaron Mitchell walked in. Wearing a slate gray blazer and a loosely knotted tie that bore the faint outline of a coffee stain shaped like Michigan, he strolled to the center dais, unbothered by the bioluminescent stares fixated on him. His boots squeaked faintly against the polished polystone floor. "All right, welcome everyone," he said, sipping what the aliens had learned was extremely bitter skull juice. "Today we begin Earth's historical overview. Buckle up, figuratively, or literally depending on your anatomy." A ripple of motion passed through the class. The Glithin fastened a chrome harness across its carapace. The Zarnak oozed a bit tighter into its containment dome. The Vrin student blinked its 10 eyes out of sync. "We'll go in order," Aaron continued, casually cueing the first holo slide. "Stone Age, tools, fire, pointy rocks, some art, pretty standard biological sapience curve." The aliens collectively exhaled, a mixed smell of ozone, citrus, and brine. One tiny insectoid even raised a limb. "Yes, Heroics? This is reassuringly tame," it buzzed. "Enjoy it while it lasts," Aaron muttered, flipping the slide. "Here's the Bronze Age. Organized warfare, slavery, human sacrifice. Oh, and massive architectural monuments built without cranes." Gasps echoed. A Threntian blinked its external memory organ. "You harvested each other ritually?" Aaron nodded. "Often for weather reasons. We weren't sure if killing a prisoner would guarantee rain, but we weren't about to not try." A soft cry came from the gelatinous Zarnak. Professor Mitchell cleared his throat and advanced to the next slide. Classical era, empires, philosophy, plumbing, also crucifixion, gladiator death matches, and public executions. It's kind of a mixed bag. He showed a short reenactment clip from Earth's visual archives. The students watched a man in a toga shout, "Are you not entertained?" before impaling someone with a trident. The Veneri twitched, her coral-hued skin paling. "That was for sport?" "Crowd entertainment," Aaron confirmed, sipping again from his mug. "They sold snacks during it." There's a long silence. The Zarnark whimpered. "What kind of snacks?" "Dried fruits, mostly." Another slide appeared. Medieval Europe. So many plagues, some of them rat-based. Also feudalism, which meant a tiny number of people owned everything and the rest tilled dirt and died young. It was not a good time. The Vrin raised a limb. "Did they at least receive medical treatment?" Aaron grimaced. "Sort of. We believed in bleeding people out with leeches and drilling holes in skulls to let out bad spirits." A choke squeal erupted from the Glithin, whose cranial cavity was transparent. Aaron, unfazed, flipped to the next slide. "Ah, the Renaissance. Art, exploration, and colonialism. So much colonialism. We found new lands, then decided the people there didn't own them properly." "How did you determine that?" asked the Threaten, now suspicious. Aaron shrugged. "We had flags." Another moment of silence passed. "Let's skip ahead. French Revolution. People were very unhappy, so they used this." A guillotine hologram spun slowly. The class flinched. "Equal opportunity neck removal. They called it the Reign of Terror." The gelatinous Zarnak made a sloshing noise and fainted into its dome. "Medical alert," droned a bot from the ceiling, lowering a tentacle to stabilize the student. Aaron continued. "Then came the industrial era. Steam, smog, and child labor. Kids working in coal mines. Also, tuberculosis. So much tuberculosis." He paused for a sip. "But then things really kicked off. A dramatic swell of music played as the next slide came up, World War I. The visual included grainy footage of trenches, gas masks, and soldiers dragging mud-slicked comrades through artillery craters. The Vrin's eyes lost alignment. One glithin began vibrating at a frequency bordering on audible. A student in the back asked for a vomit basin. "Welcome to mechanized warfare," Aaron said. "This was the first time we realized you could use machines to kill thousands before lunch. Trench foot, mustard gas, frozen rats. It was, in a word, horrific." "And your kind did not stop?" asked a Threntian, horrified. "We did," Aaron said. "For a few decades. Then we tried something worse." He hit the button. World War II appeared, and so did the whimpering. "There's a second one?" asked a coral-skinned Venari, whose tentacles now curled protectively over her upper torso. "Yup," Aaron said. "Much bigger, deadlier, more global. And we started it off with a guy named Hitler who thought people he didn't like should be exterminated." Muffled sobs broke out. Someone tried to crawl under their seat. "Then, near the end of it, we built this." He pointed to a grainy photo of a mushroom cloud. "Atomic bomb. Harness the power of nuclear fission to vaporize cities." "You built weapons that could vaporize cities," squeaked the gelatinous Zarnak, now partially recovered but trembling. "Twice," Aaron said, flipping the slide. "We dropped 2. "You did what to each other?" shrieked the Venari. "Oh, don't worry," Aaron added, sipping his coffee. "We then built thousands more just in case." The class screamed. The glithin tried to dig into the floor with its limbs. One of the insectoids began praying to a pulsar. "And you survived this period?" the glithin croaked. "Yeah, somehow. Then we made treaties and gave a Nobel Prize to the guy who invented dynamite. It's complicated." For a moment no one spoke. The holoslide froze on the image of Nagasaki. The class was visibly shaken. One alien in the back waved a flag labeled, "I opt out of this culture," written in 4 galactic dialects. Aaron glanced at the slide and back at the group. "That's enough for today. Next time we'll get into the Cold War and the time we almost blew everything up over a misinterpreted radar blip." The Zarnak moaned. "There's more?" Aaron smiled. "Oh, you have no idea. Dismissed." The next session began under dimmed lights, at the request of 3 photophobic species still recovering from emotional trauma. A sign had been posted at the door in both Galactic Standard and English. "This course contains depictions of historical violence, moral paradoxes, and humans being humans. Viewer discretion is advised." Professor Aaron Mitchell arrived carrying the same coffee mug, now refilled and steaming, with a new stain. This one looked suspiciously like Texas. "Good to see you all again," he said, unrolling a physical scroll for no reason other than aesthetic drama. "We left off at the part where we invented city-destroying weapons, so naturally we did the reasonable thing." The glithin in the front twitched. "You dismantled them?" Aaron gave a dry laugh. "No. We built more. Then we turned it into a decades-long standoff called the Cold War." He tapped the holopad. A new image appeared, 2 maps glowing with red and blue zones, arrays of intercontinental missiles aimed at each other like gods playing darts. Humans divided the planet into opposing ideologies and armed both sides with enough nuclear warheads to make the crust molten. The Venari gasped. "And then?" "We waited," said Harren. 40 years of nearly blowing each other up over chess moves. We once almost ended civilization because someone mistook a weather satellite for a missile. The Zarnak's gelatinous form shivered violently. "You lived like this?" "Yep," Aaron said, taking another sip. "And while we were at it, we waged proxy wars where we funded and armed third-party nations to fight for us. Vietnam, Korea, Afghanistan, round 1. We basically used smaller countries as chessboards." A Vrin student muttered, "Why not simply talk?" Aaron stared at him. "You think we didn't have talks? We had summits, with neckties." Another slide. grainy images of leaders shaking hands awkwardly. But when the Cold War finally ended, did we calm down? Of course not. We invented the internet. There was a beat of silence. The Threntian raised a limb. And that's a weapon? Aaron leaned forward slightly. Oh no, that was supposed to be for sharing knowledge and information. We mostly used it to argue and send each other pictures of cats. He pulled up another slide, a kitten hanging from a branch with the caption, "Hang in there." Half the class relaxed. The other half looked deeply confused. But the internet came with new problems. Cyber warfare, misinformation, and people uploading footage of themselves doing stupid stunts for attention. A montage began, humans falling off roofs, setting off fireworks indoors, and getting hit by various wheeled objects. The Glythan blinked. Are these punishments? No, these are voluntary. The Vrin's optical stalks retracted. Your species is strange. Aaron smiled. You're only starting to get it. Next slide, 9/11. The mood instantly soured. A collective tension filled the room. This was a turning point, Aaron said, voice steadier now. A small group of extremists hijacked civilian aircraft and used them as weapons against populated buildings. Thousands died. Silence. After that, he continued, we launched a global war on terror, which lasted decades. We invaded countries, toppled governments, and in many cases created even more instability. The Venari whispered, You responded to violence with more violence? Aaron nodded slowly. We tried to stop the fires by setting new ones. Sometimes it worked. Sometimes it made everything worse. Humans don't always learn the right lessons quickly. A soft chime broke the tension. A break was scheduled. Most students used it to rehydrate, meditate, or whisper nervously to one another in their own languages. Aaron sat at his desk, refilling his coffee. When class resumed, he picked up again. We also had things like the space race, he said brightly, trying to steer the ship into calmer waters. That was mostly peaceful, a kind of competition to see who could throw more stuff into orbit. He showed an image of the moon landing. We actually went there in 1969. The room lit with curiosity. Several students chirped and clicked with genuine admiration. Now this is impressive, said the insectoid student. You escaped your gravity well using liquid fuel and primitive alloy hulls? Yep, Aaron said proudly, in a tin can with less computing power than your average toaster. A collective intake of breath. The Venari clutched her tentacles again. You went to space with that? Aaron laughed. That's how we do things. We push the limits, barely survive, then celebrate like maniacs. The Glythan tapped its datapad. This unit does not compute your survival algorithm. Neither do we, Aaron said. But we keep surviving anyway. He flipped to the next slide. Now, while some were walking on the moon, others were fighting in jungles. Vietnam. It was messy. Guerrilla warfare, chemical weapons, and soldiers who came back home broken. The class went quiet again. Post-traumatic stress was common, Aaron added, but we didn't talk about it properly for decades. The Zarnak oozed sideways. You ignored mental damage. We weren't good at emotional maintenance, Aaron admitted. Still working on it. Next slide. The late 20th century. Mass protests, civil rights, cultural upheaval. We also fought ourselves on the inside. Race, gender, inequality. It wasn't just wars abroad, it was battles at home, too. The Threntians studied a photo of Martin Luther King Jr. And this one? A man who fought for equality through peace, Haran said. He was assassinated. Another gasp. Bout, Aaron said. He changed the world. Progress happened, slowly, with pain, but it happened. He turned to the final slide of the day, a shot of Earth from orbit. Blue, swirling, fragile. Through it all, we never stopped dreaming, even when we were being idiots, even when we nearly wiped ourselves out. We kept looking up. The Glythan raised a limb slowly. And now? Now, Aaron said. We're out here. With you. sharing our madness. The bell chimed. Class dismissed. As the aliens filed out, hushed and shaken, one turned back. "Professor," the Venari asked, "are humans dangerous?" Aaron thought for a moment. "Not intentionally. But we're passionate. That means sometimes we're brilliant, sometimes reckless, always complicated." She nodded, unsure if that helped. "And next time," he said, "we'll look at the 21st century. Climate change, global pandemics, artificial intelligence, and the invention of pineapple pizza." The Venari turned pale again. "See you next week." When the third lecture began, there were only 29 students present. 5 had withdrawn, citing existential instability triggered by historical content, and 1 had reportedly transferred to comparative slug poetry. Still, the room hummed with unease and reluctant curiosity. Professor Aaron Mitchell walked in with a bandage on his forehead and a limp. "Cycling accident," he explained casually. "The chain snapped and I did a front flip into a thorn bush. Pretty standard." The Glythan leaned forward. "Did you seek immediate medical attention?" Aaron shrugged, then winced. "I patched it up, iced my leg, and slept it off. Hurt like hell, though. Don't recommend it." The Venari looked mortified. "You deliberately engaged in high-velocity transport with minimal bodily protection and no redundancy systems?" Aaron grinned. "We call it exercise." The class shifted uncomfortably. A few took notes under danger rituals. "Anyway," Aaron continued, clicking to the first slide, "let's talk about the 21st century. You'd think by now we'd have stabilized, but no. Instead, we started arguing about the planet itself." The slide showed a polar bear clinging to a melting ice patch. "Climate change. We burned fossil fuels like there was no tomorrow, and then acted surprised when tomorrow got weird." Zarnik burbled. "You altered your own biosphere and then debated if it was real?" "Pretty much," Heron nodded. "Some of us sounded the alarm, others said it was a hoax. Meanwhile, temperatures rose, storms worsened, sea levels crept up. We kept having meetings about it." "What kind of meetings?" asked the Threntian. "The kind where no one agreed and we issued very polite statements about urgency before boarding private jets." The Venari sighed through her gills. "But don't worry," Aaron added. "We eventually developed solar power, wind farms, and started eating fewer cows. Bit late, though." A student tapped the translation console. "What is a cow?" Aaron paused, flipped to a new slide showing a wide-eyed bovine in a pasture. "We used to farm them for meat. Billions of them. They contributed a lot of methane." "You cultivated animals that warmed your planet and then ate them?" "Correct." A long silence. The Glythan's optics flickered. "Your species' survival strategy is deeply inefficient." "You're not wrong," Aaron said, then tapped to the next crisis. "Next up, global pandemics." An animation played of a virus particle spinning ominously. COVID-19. Early 21st century. Highly infectious respiratory illness. Spread across the planet in weeks. The Vrin perked up. "You had unified protocols, surely? Lockdowns, containment, orbital quarantines?" Aaron gave a laugh that ended in a cough. "We fought about masks." Half the class blinked. "We had people dying in hospitals and still argued about whether the disease was real. Some thought it was a conspiracy. Others drank bleach." Zarnak groaned. "Actual corrosive agent?" "Yup." One leader even recommended it on live TV. The Venari whispered to her datapad. "Humans possess duality, both genius and profound absurdity." "Exactly," Aaron said, moving on. "Eventually we got vaccines out, saved millions, but by then the distrust had spread faster than the virus." He glanced at his notes. Mental health plummeted, people isolated for months, work and school went online. We survived but not unchanged. The Glythan asked quietly, "Did you mourn?" "Oh yeah," Aaron said. "On balconies, in parking lots, with pots and pans and songs and applause for exhausted medics." He paused, face briefly drawn. "We lost a lot, but we held on. That's what we do." The room remained still. Next slide. Artificial intelligence. The screen filled with headlines, data clouds, and humanoid figures. You created conscious computation? Asked the Vrin, intrigued. Sort of. Mostly really good pattern recognition. It writes poems, makes art, answers questions. Some feared it would replace everyone. Did it? No, it mostly helped with spreadsheets, but it freaked people out. There were protests. Some called for bans, others wanted robot friends, a few tried to marry theirs. The Threntient choked on a hydration capsule. Aaron tapped again. The point is, we kept pushing boundaries. Genetic editing, virtual reality, private space travel. One billionaire even launched a convertible car into orbit. No reason, just did it. The Glithan slowly shook his shiny dome. Your species celebrates irrational risk. We call it innovation, Aaron offered. Next slide, pineapple pizza. A chorus of reactions followed, from disgust to delight to philosophical inquiry. Fruit on a meat and cheese flatbread, the insectoid said. This defines you. It's divisive, Aaron admitted. Caused rifts in families, heated debates, probably delayed diplomatic treaties. Still tasty. History is confusing, said the Veneri, gazing wearily at the screen. Welcome to the human experience, Aaron replied, grinning. About, he continued more seriously. Amid all this chaos, we did start improving. We began listening to each other more, advocating for justice, funding science, recognizing past mistakes. He flipped to an image of diverse protesters holding signs in dozens of languages. We still fight, but some of us fight to make things better. The Glithan sat back. So you evolved, not biologically but ethically? Aaron smiled faintly. On good days. Class ended not with a bell, but with a slow, respectful silence. As students filed out, the Venari lingered. Professor Mitchell, she said, I don't understand. How can you survive so many self-inflicted catastrophes? Aaron looked up, face thoughtful. Because we don't give up. We break, sure. We fall hard. But then we patch ourselves with duct tape, emotional damage, and bad coffee, and get back up. She stared at him. He added, sometimes we even learn. She bowed her head once, then left. Aaron sipped his now lukewarm mug and sighed. Now, if only we could learn how to cycle without kissing a thorn bush. By the time the final lecture arrived, there were only 24 students left in Human History 101. The others had either transferred, emotionally unraveled, or, according to rumors, joined interfaith retreats to pray that humans never became a Type 2 civilization. Still, those who remained arrived early, curious, braced. Professor Aaron Mitchell entered wearing a soft brace on his knee and a faded bandage across his brow. He looked in the way only a human could, both tired and completely unfazed by it. Good news, he said, limping slightly as he reached the podium. Today's lecture is the last one. If you've made it this far, you're either brave, stubborn, or fascinated by horror shows. All valid. A few nervous chuckles broke the usual tension. The Zarnak raised a pseudopod. Will this class end less catastrophically than the others? Aaron smiled. Define catastrophically. A resigned murmur rolled through the room. He cued the hollow slide, a serene image of a child planting a tree. This time we're talking about the near future. Things aren't perfect, we still argue, still fall short, but humans when cornered adapt fast. The Threntian blinked. Even after centuries of violent cycles, pollution, mistrust, you improve? We try, it's messy, but let me show you. The slides began moving quickly. Clean energy grids crisscrossing continents, global disease surveillance, refugee resettlement drones, autonomous emergency response systems pulling people from floods, fires, collapsing cities. The Vrin asked, how did you finance such efforts? Perrin replied, we stopped funding some weapons, not all, but enough to make room for solar satellites and oceanic plastics extractors, even launched a climate remediation shield prototype. He sipped his coffee. Still tastes like despair, but we're working on the planet. Another slide. Astronauts from 5 nations and 2 private firms standing side by side on Mars. We got here, Aaron said, voice quieter now. Not because it was easy or because we deserved it, but because we refused to stop trying. The room was still. The next slide showed a bustling orbital habitat, a human girl playing chess with a Trinari, both laughing, floating mid-air. Interstellar diplomacy came after that. We stumbled a lot, said dumb things, offended a dozen species in our first week. The Glythan nodded solemnly. We remember. Aaron chuckled. But we apologized, built trust, learned the hard way that humanity doesn't have all the answers. The Veneri tapped her console. You still maintain conflict zones, yes? Yes, Aaron said. Some regions still fight. Hatred doesn't vanish overnight. But we've got more people choosing dialogue now. Sometimes it even works. A slide of a peace treaty being signed between 2 Earth factions, witnessed by a delegation of neutral aliens, filled the screen. Humans still do stupid things, Aaron continued. We prank each other. We jump off roofs for viral fame. We eat things that should never be eaten. The insectoid raised a limb. Like fermented fish sealed in tins? Yes, that was a cultural culinary war crime. More laughter this time, genuine, nervousness slowly giving way to something else. Aaron clicked to the final slide. A rotating sphere, Earth, from high orbit, slowly turning beneath scattered satellites and glimmering beacons. This, he said, is home. He looked out over the students. We wrecked it, poisoned rivers, cut down forests, fought each other over sand and lines on maps. But we also painted cathedrals, wrote symphonies, built machines that think, cured diseases, sent messages through stars. A pause. Some call us reckless, chaotic, dangerous. They're not wrong, but we're also curious, tenacious, and weirdly hopeful. He set the holopad down. Humanity is the species that stood on a battlefield 1 century and built a space telescope the next. The classroom stayed silent, the moment heavy and oddly reverent. And the Zarnak, wobbling softly in its dome, raised a trembling pseudopod. I still do not understand how you survived your own history. Aaron tilted his head. Neither do we, but I think it's because even in our darkest moments, someone somewhere kept singing, or writing, or planting trees. The Glythan leaned forward. Then what should we take from this? Aaron smiled, eyes tired but warm. Take this. We are not easy to understand. We are contradictions in motion. But we're still here, and we want to learn. The class was quiet for a long time. Then, slowly, the Veneri stood, tentacles relaxed. Professor Mitchell, she said, thank you for showing us your world as it truly is. Flawed but hopeful, added the Threntian. And exceptionally noisy, said the insectoid. Aaron nodded. That's us. One by one, the students filed out, pausing just long enough to look back at the screen showing Earth turning, fragile and beautiful in the vastness of space. As the last one left, Aaron leaned on the podium and whispered, not expecting anyone to hear, here's hoping we keep deserving second chances. Behind him, the holo screen flickered once, then dimmed. Class dismissed.